What was your role and where did you work?
So I graduated from Northwestern University with a major in mathematics and a specialty in statistics. So a lot of people who graduate with math and stats, one of their options is going into the actuarial sciences. So when I first graduated, I was hired in a small actuarial firm called SG Risk in New Jersey. They're actually in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. So it was a junior actuarial level position. And at that time, I really didn't know much about the weeds of the profession. I just knew that I was going to do some statistics and data analysis. So that was actually a pretty good stepping stone. And it was an independent firm. There were two lead actuaries, and one of the mid-level actuaries, he kind of took me under his wing. So I learned initially just basic data analysis, statistical analysis. I should work with Excel a lot. And by the way, Microsoft Excel, I mean, they use that in any firm. I know there are some newer softwares that are coming up, but Excel is kind of I would say the foundation for a lot of data analysis. After that, I worked for a pretty large firm, Aon Consulting. They're a multinational company, and I was in their actuarial department. My main job was to do data analysis for companies that have pensions. And so, yeah, I even did some work for the New Jersey pension for all their public employees. So yeah, at that time it was, I'd say I was in my mid-20s. I learned a lot. We worked with clients, unlike regular actuaries who often just work in the back room. I had two responsibilities. One was to do analysis, the other was to work with the clients, do presentations. And that helped me because I am a person that also has, I would say, very comfortable in presentations. I mean, look at me, I'm a teacher now. So it was good to meet clients and do presentations. So not only we're working with analytical software, but we were doing a lot of presentation-based software. I know more and more AI is taking over that aspect, but still I would say, I mean, you are presenting to a human. So being able to have a good eye for good presentations. We did a lot of PowerPoint at that time, but now I know there are lots of software that's very helpful for presentations. And then there was a lot of busy work. So anytime you get data, they know these companies store data in all sorts of places. So you're not gonna get pitch perfect data. Like if your teacher was giving you a project, they will give you really nice data with labeled. We would get data that's like 20 years, 30 years old, all different types. Sometimes we would have to transcribe data from paper into spreadsheet. And then sometimes it was just, I won't call it bad data, but not clean data. So cleaning the data was so important, and that was some of the busy grind work that as a junior actuarial analyst that we have to do. And that takes quite some time. So for people who are thinking about going into data analysis, actuarial analysis, a lot of the time maybe just cleaning the data so that you can actually then play around with the data. I mean, that's the fun part, but it may take you 1-2 days, sometimes maybe even longer. If your client has multiple places where they've stored data, or the labeling of the data is all over the place, and you're looking at the data, you're like, okay, this set of data does not look anything like this set of data. Maybe there was some mistakes. You may have to, email your client back and say, hey, what went on over here? 1996, what was going on? So yeah, that was a big part of the work. At Aon, it was very go, and I was thinking about leaving the field because I could do the work, but it was not something that I think I was, maybe I should say, meant to do. I know some people, I have a lot of friends who are still actuaries and they really like the field, but for me, it was kind of like, I actually enjoyed teaching young actuaries a lot more than actually doing like hours and hours of data analysis. So if you're thinking about going in that track, think about that. Do you want to do it? Because if you can, it can be very lucrative, but it is not for everyone. Working behind a computer for hours doing data analysis for large corporations.
Thank you. For those who don't know, could you also just briefly explain what actuarial science is?
Yeah, so actuarial analysis or actuarial science would be basically, the idea is you're trying to analyze, so I'll give you an example. Pensions. Okay, I know it's kind of going away, but pensions. So a lot of people are under a pension plan if you're working for the same company, or let's say New Jersey, if you're a public servant of New Jersey, right? And every year, people, some of your salary is going into this large pension fund. Okay, when these people retire, they have been promised. So let's say a general pension plan. Often it's if you work at least 10 years, and then you reach 65. Your company has promised you that they will pay a pension to you. Now, pension means that you'll get a percentage of your salary. This will help you for the rest of your life. Even Social Security is a pension, basically. In order to do that, there's a lot of things that's going on. One, not everyone is going to be taking the pension because maybe they're not qualified. I'm not talking about Social Security, but a regular pension fund. Maybe they leave the company before 10 years. Two, how long are they going to live? Because a pension is a promise that you're going to get paid this money for the rest of your life. You can't assume that everyone's going to live till 100 years old, right? Then you will, take too much money out of these people's salary. You can't assume that everyone passes away at 70, because then you have saved too little money to pay these people. So you have to be constantly looking at the data to analyze, do you have money? What is the age when, and it's kind of morbid, but what is the age do you see an average rate where people are dying? And not only just the average, but what percentage? Maybe 20% live till the 90s. Maybe 30% live till the mid 80s. Maybe 70% of your population is living till 70. So it's not just, you can't just take a straight up average. That would be so much easier. So there is a lot of statistics going on. Now from that statistics, you're creating and you're giving clients a plan that, hey, from your salaried employees, you may want to be taking this percentage of their salary out for your pension to be viable. Now again, you can't, the number that some actuary did in 1980 may not be the same number that someone's doing in the year 2025. So we have to constantly look at the numbers, maybe tweak it. What's the rate that we're taking? And not only that, this money that they're taking out from the pension, the companies are then investing. So how did your investment go? Because we don't want the money to be sitting because the money's not growing because there's inflation. So how did your investment go? So we have to take a look at a lot of things to then give our clients that, hey, this is the percentage of money that you may be taking for your pension to be viable. Now that's just one aspect of actuarial sciences. It includes health insurance. It includes life insurance. Any kind of insurance an actuary has to sign. Same thing with insurance. Let's say car insurance. How much money, not everyone's gonna have an accident. And not everyone's gonna have an accident at the same time. Some people may have multiple accidents. Some people may never get into an accident. Now, if a person goes and says, I need car insurance, and if an actuarial firm, if insurance company is too conservative and charges a very high rate because they're like, oh, we want to make sure that we have money to pay all of our customers if they have an accident, well then people are not going to go to that. Let's say Liberty Mutual, they're not going to go. They will say, well, Liberty Mutual is charging too high rate for car insurance, I'm going to go to Geico. Now if you charge too little, then maybe, let's say Geico doesn't have enough money to pay their customers when people get into car accidents. So it's and again, you have to look at the markets. Once you get that money, how are you doing with investment? Because you want to grow that money. So it's a lot of different data points. And so actuaries for certain industries, especially the insurance industry and the pension, by law, only actuaries are allowed to sign for the rates. But if you have any kind of investment, any kind of company that's being seen by an actuary, you know that it's very safe and that they have done a detailed analysis. So if you're getting insurance, if you're getting pension, that the actuary has made sure that it is going to be safe, and eventually you will get your money back. So I don't know if that helps.
Yep, thank you. Mr. Sengupta, what was the day-to-day like as an actuary?
The day-to-day, wow, it's been a while, but I can still comment on that. So day-to-day would be, I'd go in, unlike teachers, we don't have to go in that early. So normally, we start at 9 o'clock. I'm not a morning person. There were people obviously in the office before 9, but yeah, I'd get in by 9. Again, different technologies, but at that time texting wasn't a big thing. I still don't know if texting is such a big thing in financial field for, how would I say, confidential information. So yeah, I would go in, make sure, check my emails. If there are meetings, often there were meetings in the mornings, get a structure for the day. Because it's such an open field, you have to kind of create your own structure. So you go in and you have like 5 or 6 projects, and I would go in and I'd be like, okay, this project I want to spend the morning doing. And again, like I said earlier, it could be anything from cleaning the data, doing the analysis, creating slides. And again, you can't just create boring slides. You're creating for clients. So even something like, you have the data, you created the charts, but how many charts do you want? How many comparison charts do you want? Depending on that, your clients could be like, okay, this actuary is like really invested in my firm, or you could do the bare minimum and just do 1 or 2 charts and just do a very short job, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so you want your clients to be coming back to you year after year. So if you're doing a project for a client, we're talking about a pretty lengthy project. So you have to make the decision, how detailed you want to be, how many slides you want. And when I'm talking about slides, I'm talking about the graphs that you're creating from Excel. You tweak it, worst case scenario, best case scenario, in between scenarios, you play around with the rates. You're doing a study, what's gonna happen with their numbers 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So morning often is kind of creating a structure, what you're gonna do in the day. You have lunch, and the afternoon often is basically a lot of it was calling clients, because clients often in the morning, same thing, they may be very busy. So you may quickly send a message to them that, hey, at 1 o'clock, let's have a meeting. I'm looking at these numbers. I want to talk to you before I finalize a study and stuff like that. Throughout the day, you may be called for meetings. Sometimes the meetings may go really long. That may change your schedule. You may be having to stay longer. So yeah, it's not as simple. It is a lot of moving parts. Depending on deadlines, you may be staying pretty late. Again, that's not true for all actuaries, by the way. Some of the actuaries that work in a little bit more conservative environment, like life insurance and stuff, they may have a more, more rigid schedule. But I was working not in an actuarial consulting environment. So because I was working with clients, depending on the deadline, I may be staying pretty late. Sometimes we would stay even 7, 8 o'clock. I have stayed in the office even like till 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes, because you're working with clients, you may be even called on a weekend. None of us like that, but sometimes, you may be called for that. So that's day to day. If you're becoming an actuarial consultant, it all depends on the client. And if you're thinking about going into the actuarial science, first do your research. any kind of field, by the way, do your research. Is that something that's suited to you? And the second is, now there are colleges now that are actually having actuarial science department, but all the big colleges still don't. So often, if that's the case, you're looking at something like, they really like math majors because math majors are problem solvers. Statistics majors are fine too, and in my case, it was like a mixture of both. So math or stats would be your major to go. Econ could be it, but if you're going into an econ major, make sure you have a math or stats background. Okay, meaning math or stats minor, I would say. But yes, those three are the fundamentals. Obviously, you want to have a little bit of experience going in. So my advice is take the actuarial exam, the first one. There are 9, and depending on which field you go to, there are 8 to 9. There are more if you're going into the property casualty environment, meaning you want to do car insurance, home insurance, that stuff. There is one less exam if you're going into life insurance or health insurance or pension. But there are a lot of exams. I would recommend people to take that first exam their senior year of college. Get it out of the way, because if you do, and then you're applying for actuarial jobs, the firm knows that you're serious. Better chance of getting a job straight out of college. The first test, all the tests are difficult, but the first test is a lot of calculus, and I'm a calculus teacher. A lot of calculus, a lot of statistics. So you gotta be very strong at that.
So do you need these tests to practice?
You need the test to get your license. And also, the actuarial firms are looking at these tests to see how serious you are. And every time you pass a test, your salary goes up. So it's like a bonus on top of a bonus. If you get the first 5 tests done, then you become an associate actuary. And then if you get all the tests done, you become a fellow actuary. And a fellow actuary signature is, associate actuary is nice. You know, you get to do a lot of stuff. You could, represent yourself. You have a signature power from them. But a fellow actuary with that signature, pretty much anything. You could even open up your own firm if you're a fellow actuary. But it's a long time. And for actuaries, they give you, so there are tests that happen in the fall and in the spring. But these tests take a long time to prep for. So your firm may give you, depending on the firm, 30 to 40 hours to study for. But these are very, very difficult tests. But again, you want to get the test done as soon as possible, because without the test, you don't have signing power. And if you could get 1 or ideally even 2, although the second exam would be maybe a little bit too difficult for someone who hasn't worked in an actuarial firm. Not impossible, but if you get 1 or 2 tests done early on, and especially the first test done, you study for it in your senior year, get that test done, focus on calculus that you have learned. You should have learned that kind of calculus in your first 2 years in college. Then you're golden, you go into these interviews and you're like, oh, I already have my first actuarial test under my belt. They're like, okay, this is a serious candidate, they can pass tests, we're gonna hire you. So yeah, that would be my main advice. Okay, do the research, see if the field is right for you. Because not everyone has that same mentality. Like, can you do data analysis? Would you want to, not just that, but can you see that doing for the rest of your life? Do you enjoy it? And the second thing is, you're going to be taking a lot of tests. Can you multitask, take tests, do the analysis? And the third would be start taking the tests very early on, even in college.
Okay.
Okay. If you're going to become an actuarial consultant, then you definitely need to have people skills. Mm-hmm. And actuarial consultants in general get paid more than like regular actuaries. And I don't want to call regular actuaries, but maybe I should say actuaries that don't work with clients, because there is no bonus that's involved. So if you're more of an introvert, okay, then yeah, you could be a general actuary, like a life insurance actuary or a health insurance actuary that rarely work with clients. You still need a little bit of people skills once you get higher up, because you're going into more meetings. But as a junior actuary, if you're not in consulting, you're not working as much with clients, you're also not getting paid as much as an actuarial consultant. But if you're shy, maybe I would say stay on that track. But if you are comfortable with your people skills, then I say, just go in the actuarial consulting field.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.